Welcome everyone to the Pyramid Science Foundation Saturday live stream series. And we're really super excited to have Paul Barlow back. He's an energy transformational therapist who's going to give us some information and some tips and pointers on how to develop a meditation practice. And he has a couple neat things sprinkled in there too. So welcome, Paul. I'll turn the floor right over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Lovely to be back. It's always nice to be invited back to something. I think it's a good sign. So I'm pretty, it's a very, this subject, I'm very passionate about this subject, about meditation and energy work, especially so since I've been working in the pyramid. Everything's more exciting in the pyramid, I think. And what I want to talk about today is sort of the bigger picture of meditation in the context of, I think, what we're going through, humanity's going through right now. And, you know, sort of this idea of going from 3 dimensions to 5 dimensions. I want to talk a little bit about that, how to set up your practice, which I think is almost one of the most essential things, because doing the practice itself is you can maintain a consistency and a flow when you have a good setup. If you don't have a good setup, you can get distracted. So I want to talk about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the reptilian brain. Such an interesting name for that part of the brain. Very destructive aspect of the brain, it can be, and it can really get in the way of our practice. So we're going to talk about that and possibly some sort of strategies to manage that aspect of the brain. And then we're going to talk about meditation and sort of what it is, and a few techniques for meditating, you know, possibly, hopefully, I'm hoping to give you guys something that you can perhaps add to what you're already doing. I'm sure everyone has understanding of meditation and probably practices to some degree. So if I can add something to your practice, then I will sort of feel like I've done what I'm sort of aiming to do here. Does that all make sense? As a sort of an outline?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
So if we look at this situation we're in now of sort of like, you've got the 3D reality, and we've got this kind of idea of this brighter, lighter 5D reality. This idea of living in an expanded consciousness, and living in a very different way. I think it's been represented in many books and movies and all sorts of things. For me, it's a little bit like, it's like living between 2 islands. So you've got 3-dimensional island, and then you've got the 5-dimensional island, and sort of, I feel like a lot of us, perhaps millions of us, have jumped off 3-dimensional island going, it's not enough. It's just not enough for us. We want more than that. We know there's more. Somehow internally, you know there's more than just this 5 sense reality that is basically like living in a small box. And yet we don't necessarily know exactly how to get to that 5th dimensional island. You know, I call it Paradise Island in my own mind. And we can spend a lot of time swimming in the water. But, you know, that old familiar island is easy, it's safe, it's comfortable, but it's kind of not what we want. So we're experiencing a bit of cognitive dissonance because we don't exactly know how to get to 5D island. We haven't been trained. We haven't had the training. We didn't get it at school. We didn't get it at college or university. We didn't get it from our parents, generally speaking here. We didn't get the training. So we don't exactly know what practices to be doing, and how often to be practicing, the types of habits to work with on a daily basis. What we have had is a very, very limiting conditioning from day one, from the day we're babies all the way through till now. We've had a very limited perspective. You know, if you think of Newtonian physics, then the actual perspective we gained from that was, we are physical beings. We have a beginning, a duration, and an end. That's it. I mean, how disenchanting is that? It's like, wow, what a conditioning. And then that conditioning is reinforced over and over and over through all the different sciences, through education, and everybody conditions each other with that same idea, or set of limiting ideas. So I sort of feel like through the learning process, we just get so heavily conditioned we then get a little bit stuck in our five senses, and we live in such a small box of reality. And for those of us that have woken up, whatever we want to call it, there's a sense of just, we know there's more. We know there's more, but we don't always know how to get out that box. As a therapist, that's the sort of thing I help people to do. And I find meditation is a wonderful way. It's one way of actually helping ourselves get out of the box and connect with the universal life force energy and all that potential that we have outside the box. And I've seen how people get programmed, and I sort of observe and I watch people, and I've got a funny story about a guy I was working with one day. I was helping someone with a DIY job, and I spent about 10 hours there that day. And I don't have the radio and things like that on because I don't like the programming. So I'd rather be in my own thoughts or talking with, who I'm working with. There was a chap there who was working all day, and he was listening to the radio for about 10 hours. And there was news broadcasts every 15 minutes on the radio. And it was all doom, gloom, scarcity and lack, the usual sort of drum beat. And I calculated it out. He listened to the same negative message 40 times that day. 40 times. And when I talked to him at the end of the day about this, he said, no, that doesn't go into my head. No, I don't let that stuff into my head. None of that's getting, there was this sort of sense of, he wasn't even aware. The next day, he was singing all the songs of the radio that were coming on the radio from the adverts and things like that. He was singing all the tunes, and no, none of that gets into my head. And it was just amazing how programmed we are, and how much we are unaware that we're programmed. If you consider the initial programming 0 to 7, the imprinting period, the mind is like a sponge, and you're literally soaking up everything. You've got no conscious mind to look at that information and rationalize that what's happening. You just absorb everything in your environment, and even 7 till 14, you're still absorbing a majority of what comes in. Your conscious mind forms around between 14 and 21. So the conditioning's already done. And as a teacher said to me, most of the work now is actually deconditioning ourselves. So if we want to get to fifth dimensional island, Paradise Island, then we got to decondition ourselves and actually start practicing the things that are really beneficial to existing on that sort of frequency, I'm guessing, or in that range of frequency. There's a beautiful book that I've been reading recently, and it's a book I'm rereading because it's just so good, where there's a chap who lives in 1976, and he's living very much a three-dimensional life, and he goes to sleep one night, and he has a dream, and he's woke up in 2150 AD. I don't know, some people might already know this book, and he starts experiencing an advanced society where they don't have government, they don't have taxes, they don't have money. Everything is being lived on a much higher scale of consciousness. Everyone's very, very aware of their thoughts. They're very aware of their actions, the words they're using. And he keeps flitting between 1976 and 2150. You may as well call it 2021 and 2150. It's exactly the same scenario as what we're going through now. And he starts learning the techniques and the ways of living that actually, that they're living in 2150, and he starts bringing them back to 1976, and he starts living more of a fifth dimensional life amongst this sort of very 3D reality. And as you can imagine, people were scared of him because he's got the ability to move things with his mind and all this type of stuff, things he's learned. And I sort of feel like we're a little bit in that story right now. That's how it feels for me personally. Like we're in that story. We don't exactly know how to get there, but I feel like we're living. For us that have woken up to some degree, we're very much in that place, and we're sort of battling with that conditioning. in varying degrees. So for me, meditation is one way, and energy work is one way to kind of open up and access that fifth dimensional reality more of the time. And it very much involves a set of habits that, when cultivated, are really going to support us in leaving that sort of third dimensional island way behind, which is kind of the hope. If I can, sort of assist people in that today, then that would be really, really great thing. So breaking out the box, basically. So when it comes to meditation, I feel that optimizing the environment is really important. There was a lovely book by a lady called Lynn McTaggart. You guys have probably heard of her. She wrote The Field, brilliant book. And then she wrote a book called The Intention Experiment. I don't know if you heard of that one, yeah? And there was a few things that I got from that book that really made sense in the context of what we're talking about here, creating a meditation space, intentions, and working with intentions. And she found three key things in the meta study. And one was you create space in your environment to do your meditation work. So yeah, you could sit, in one place, like a cat, you could sit in one place one day and one place another day. That's fine. But they found it was better if you can sit in the same place every day. So what we're talking about is creating an environment that is your sort of sacred space, as it were. And two other factors they found was to meditate at the same time, ideally. I mean, it's not, you don't have to, but the more you can. I can't remember the exact reasons for the same time, apart from the sort of like benefits of being in a routine. But it was the same time, and also what was the other? Sorry, there was one more. It'll come back to me. So get your environment right and actually practice at the same time. And it was every day. That's it. So practicing every day, keeping the practice going every single day. And I know it's a challenge with the Western way of living, and everything that's going on, and the busyness and the volume of things that we do on a daily basis, especially if you've got a family and kids and things like this. So they were the three key things that I sort of gleaned from that book. But I think we can counter that a little bit by having the pyramids. The pyramid commands the space in the house anyway, which is great. So you set your meditation space by planting your pyramid down. So you already create an environment just by putting that in place. And I think that's a massive advantage to not having one. Because I was watching the David Wilcock Wisdom Teachings. I think you recommended them, Charlie. And he was talking about how the pyramid, the geometry of the pyramid actually affects gravitational forces, which then increases the flow of photons in that space. So we're really moving a long way to creating a good environment to be doing our meditative or energy work or intentions work. And part of that setup for me as well is getting the mobile phones off, unplugging the house phone or whatever we need to do. If we've got a family or kids, to be letting them know, in advance, I'm meditating for the next hour. So, stay out, leave me alone. And really setting the environment up to be successful. So you're not getting interrupted or distracted too much. I mean, they may sound like very basic things, but they will throw us off if we let them. Programming in your meditation is another, I think, important area as well. Sort of whether that's setting an alarm on your phone or just setting yourself up for your meditation, your next meditation. I like to, before I go to bed, before I go to sleep, at least, I like to think about my meditation the next day. Before I arrive in the next day, I like to program my mind in the morning. When I wake up, I am meditating. When my alarm clock goes off, I am then meditating. That's the first thing I do. And if I see a picture of myself doing that, if I create that in my imagination, I'm much more likely to do it than if I haven't created that. So we're only talking 30 seconds. 30 seconds of seeing that picture, seeing yourself coming out of the meditation, getting your breakfast or whatever it is you do next. Create that mini movie ahead of time. And that programming will help you to stay on track with your meditation, because, things like tiredness, busyness can easily distract you from what you want to be doing. If you want to be doing your meditation, and sometimes those excuses and reasons and alibis can knock you off track. And I find if you get knocked off track one day, then you can easily fall off the track again another day, and then for a couple of days, and then eventually your whole practice falls to pieces. I once said something to someone who was doing running. They were learning, sort of like doing jogging and running, and they had a goal they were working toward, and they kept stopping halfway through the run. I said, the moment you let yourself stop once, you'll always have that niggle in the back of your mind to stop again. But if you go running and you just say, you send a picture to your unconscious mind and say, this is where we're stopping. This is the stopping point. This is the end point. This is where you get to stop. The unconscious mind's much more likely to keep going and get to that place, because you've given it an instruction, you've given it clarity. So you could say to yourself, tomorrow morning, picture yourself meditating for half an hour. And you can just kind of imagine that and program that in ahead of time. It really works, really helps. Try it for the sake of 30 seconds each day. I know it's another thing to add to the day, right? But it'll pay off. Really programming in that meditation time. What we really want to get with our meditation is consistency and flow. So it doesn't matter how we meditate. I think everyone's got a different perspective on what meditation is, what they like to do, whether that's breathing work or working with chakras and colors or whatever. I don't think it matters. I don't think there is a 5-point program that you have to follow. Follow my 5-point program. I don't think there is one. I think there's only what works for you, and that may change in time as well. But I think what is important with meditation is your consistency of practice, which to me is daily practice. Some people practice twice a day. And your ability to focus whilst you're meditating. So bringing your attention into the present moment, keeping it in the present moment. And if the mind starts getting busy with thoughts of the day, it's having techniques to bring that back to now, bring the mind back to now. So you're very present with what you're doing. Okay, I mean, if I owned based on the volume of research that there is on meditation, I'm sure people here have seen some of the research. The benefits of meditation are just off the scale. I mean, you just start reading through the benefits of meditation, effects on cognition, effects on memory, effects on the immune system, quality of sleep, how it affects the nervous system, all these things. It's not long before you recognize that, everyone should be meditating basically on a daily basis, including kids at school, kids at university and college, and people in business, starting the day with a meditation, perhaps doing a meditation mid-afternoon, these types of things. You would expect them by now to be social norms, but they're not. I mean, they are in some places. Some places do this stuff. But generally it's not happening. And that to me is just blows my mind, that it's not yet happening. I'm sure in that sort of elevated society it will be. So let's make it a social norm, in our own lives, bringing this meditation practice in. So the biggest threat is the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is basically a thief. It'll just rob us of all the good things that we really want in our lives, the things that take work, the things that take effort. If you think about the reptilian brain, it's sort of the oldest part of the brain. It's the deepest down in the brain. All reptiles have the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain wants instant results. It doesn't want to work for things. It wants what it wants, and it wants it now. And that's problematic, because when you meditate, you don't necessarily get instantaneous results. You really don't. Sometimes you get quick results, but the majority of the time you don't. It's something you build and you build and you build and you build. But the reptilian wants it now. The reptilian brain wants it now. It wants instant gratification, and it's sort of always working on the path of least resistance. It's the same as if maybe you go to work and you think, oh, I'll go to the gym later when I get back, and you have full intention of going to the gym. And you know by going to the gym, you're going to feel good afterwards. You know that because you've done it before, and it's the same every time. And then you get back and, you know, something happens, and maybe you kind of start surfing on your phone or whatever it be, and you don't go. And that's the reptilian brain right there. Path of least resistance, seeking instant gratification. I'll do something instead. Oh, I'm enjoying this. I'm just, you know, perusing through the internet. But actually you wanted to go to the gym. So the reptilian brain kind of causes internal conflicts. And those internal conflicts, you know, drain our energy and certainly distract us from getting on and doing our practice. Yeah, does that all make sense? Yeah, okay, good. So with the reptilian brain, you know, it's sort of it's the fight or flight mechanism as well. So when we're stressed or we're tired, the reptilian brain is fully not in control, but it's fully active at that point. You know, when we're at our weakest, you know, I've had it before where I've procrastinated through the day about doing my meditation, and I found reasons not to do it, even though I knew it's on my list to do for the day and I want to do it. I've let myself go through till 1 o'clock in the morning, avoiding it. And then, you know, sat down at 1 o'clock in the morning and done it. Not as well as, you know, not half as well as I could have, but I've still sat and done it. So part of the ways I found of dealing with this reptilian brain is really learning to, you know, like I said before, set your practice up well, set your environment up well, do your programming for your practice, programming it in ahead of time. See yourself being successful, having done your practice, feeling good after doing your practice. I do this, don't tell anyone else, but I do this in the surf sometimes when I'm surfing and there's lots of people and there's not many waves and there's only a few waves to go around, and it's, you know, busy, say summertime. What I'll do is, instead of getting, you know, upset or stressed that I'm not getting any waves, I'll just sit and visualize myself getting waves. The waves just keep coming to me somehow, some way, and I'm grinning to myself as I'm paddling into these waves. I'm surfing all these waves and I'm getting out of the surf feeling absolutely fulfilled because I've had lots of waves and I've had a great time. The more I practice that, the more it happens. Funnily enough, doesn't matter how many people are out, 200 people, only a few waves every few minutes. But the more I visualize that, the more it happens. I don't know how it happens. You know, it's not like I've got fitter or better or more skilled. I've just visualized, opposed to when I don't visualize, get a little more stressed, get a little more caught up in the busyness of things. So I think there's quite a strong, there's a good reason to use that imagination, that creativity to program, because it seems to affect the reality around us, as we know, right? We know that because we see things manifest. Things that we think about, they show up. The more of this energy work we do. So I definitely encourage that really good setting up. That'll help buffer the effects of the reptilian brain, and really watching our state as well, because emotional, if we're in a sort of an emotionalized state, that can really pull us off track. If we have that intention to meditate, sit down, do our practice, emotion can knock us off track like nothing else. So a good technique for working with emotion is to just simply ground that energy down into the ground. I can do that technique with everyone if they wanted to, or I can just talk about it. I don't mind. What
Yes,
do
let's
people
do it.
feel? Yeah, should we do it? Just a couple of minutes. That's all. Doesn't take
Sure.
long. You can do this with a tree as well. It's lovely to do it with a tree, or you can do it with the ground. Ideally, get no shoes. We don't want that rubber insulation between you and the earth. You want to kind of really connect with that earth element. So feet on the ground, and I like to go and stand out in my garden on bare feet on the grass. It's nice. And I want you to imagine, just become aware of what energy you're feeling in your body now, or what energies. Just become aware of that. And then imagine opening a couple of hatches in the bottom of your soles of your feet. And I normally sort of communicate with the earth and just ask the earth to take whatever energy it is that I'm feeling, just to take it. Just take it from me, absorb it like a sponge. And just start letting that energy out of the soles of your feet. And a bit like, as your petrol tank gauge in your car goes down, just kind of start noticing that energy from the top of your head, that gauge going down as you're emptying from your feet. And just take as much time as you need. You don't have to rush. Just notice the level going down. So it's head starting to become clear as that energy is just draining down out of your feet into the ground. Just keep going. Noticing what happens as you start to empty from the top of your head down to your neck, down through your shoulders, through the arms, just draining that energy out, down through the torso, tips of the fingers, down through the legs to the knees, and just feeling the rest of that energy leaving, exiting through the soles of the feet, absorbed into the ground, down through the legs, the ankles, and the feet. Just notice the ground soaking all of that up, absorbing every bit of it. And then sealing your feet again. And then just come back to your awareness of your body. Notice how you feel.
Yeah, it's amazing how something just so quick and simple can relieve so much stress. You know?
It's not hard. It's very doable. Even if you're at work and you have to nip off to the loo, do it in there. It doesn't matter. There's always the place. You just do it in your car. If you're in a car and you're in traffic and you're stressed, just drop it out. And that's a way of just staying on track, because then you can think straight again. As soon as we get too emotionalized or too stressed, the sort of thinking part of the brain literally switches off, and then the reptilian brain basically takes over. And we don't want the reptilian. We don't want the reptilian brain.
We're programmed to stay in the fight and flight, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of our conditioning, right? It's part of the conditioning to be more in the fight or flight more of the time. That's the one place where we can't expand our consciousness. We can't get to 5D island in the fight or flight. We just cannot.
Because it's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system. So you can only use one or the other.
Yeah.
So we need to start switching that off so we can start healing and repairing ourselves. That's why people are so sick as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, perfect. So that's a little technique that you can use anywhere, anytime. Very useful. I use that technique every day. I tend to use it at the end of the day and just let the effects of the day just drain out of me into the garden. So it's nice. I mean, sometimes during the day, if you're struggling with something, it can be nice to do it then. Take a couple of minutes, just drop that energy. I should imagine that's a practice that they're doing in 5D, right? in the 5D world. That's a practice that's just normal. It's an everyday thing, and perhaps it's something for us to cultivate and to make normal, as many other techniques. Okay.
I see why they used to run and just hide in the caves by themselves,
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that does make sense. So, like I was saying earlier, meditation is, it's different for everybody. If you've got a pen and paper handy, anyone, just remember it if you need to. If you write down meditation and then write the first 5 things that come to your mind when you say the word meditation. First 5 things, no need to think. If anyone wants to read out their 5, I'm just going to show how we all have a different representation of what meditation means. Go on then, Lisa.
Peace. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Me? Oh, okay. I wrote peace, healing, breath, downloads, and oneness.
Cool. Lisa.
I wrote sleep, stress, chill, wrecked for some reason, and peace. I think I was just alternating back and forth there, but yeah.
Charlie, what did you come up with?
Peace, tranquility, connection, creativity, and health.
Yeah, okay. I got peace, Buddha, energy, stillness, contemplation. So notice how, and I'm sure everyone else who's done this has probably got a slightly different list again. So we all represent, meditation means something slightly different to each of us, which is why I don't think there is one way of doing it. Buddha reached enlightenment, plenty of meditation along the way, but did it his way. Doesn't mean you build a religion around it, dare I say. He did it his way. Doesn't mean it's everybody else's way. So what we're trying to achieve with meditation is like Lisa's already mentioned, we really want to get out of that stress state. We want to bring ourselves out of that conditioned response to get stressed, to get too tied up in this 3-dimensional world, to get frustrated, all the things that we've been trained to do. And we want to get out of that beta brainwave, that fast, speedy brainwave that keeps us in the sympathetic nervous system, that keeps us in that 5-sense reality, that keeps shutting the brain, our thinking brain, down. And we want to drop down into the alpha states, much more daydreamy type states, and preferably the theta state, much slower brainwave, lucid dreaming, much more expanded consciousness. We're much further out of the box in that state, in the theta brainwave state. I talked about Dolores Cannon's technique last time I did a talk, and she explained it very, very well. She said we go through all 4 of the brain waves each day. I know there's gamma as well, but the main 4 brain waves we go through twice a day, every day, and we all kind of know what it's like. So you're in deep sleep in the delta brainwave, where there's not really any consciousness there. You then start waking up and you come into that theta brainwave. You start having those sort of lucid images, and then you come into the alpha brainwave a little bit faster. You start waking up. You start becoming a bit more aware of what's going on, and then eventually you come back into your sort of beta brainwave, where you're fully awake, alert. You're aware of what you've got to do that day, that type of thing. And then you go through most of the day in beta. And then toward the end of the day, you start slowing down again. You go into alpha. You start a bit more of a daydreamy state. People can be talking to you and you're not hearing them. And it's like, oh, hi, yeah, sorry, you're talking to me. And then eventually, just before you go to sleep, you go into theta, where the lucid images start again, and then off into delta, and then go through your sort of sleep cycles. So what we want to try and do is actually cultivate, getting into the alpha and theta brainwaves a lot more of the time. And I'm sure fifth dimensional life is spent a lot more in alpha and in theta, I would guess. Having had experiences in those states, very profound experiences in those states, some very interesting things began to happen. So I'm going to share a story I haven't shared before. Certainly not in a sort of public way like this, if you guys are happy for me to share. Yeah. Okay. So I was doing okay, cool. I was doing a week's meditation retreat in Germany, in Frankfurt, in Germany. And we basically had to go there with an intention for what we wanted. And I wanted to explore the range of what I could feel, because I knew there was more to feel. I'm a very feeling person anyway, but I knew there was more. I felt like I was still living in a bit of a box. And I really wanted to challenge the boundaries of that box. I mean, this is the sort of intentions I set. I don't have to set myself up for things. And I went to this retreat, and it was a wonderful retreat. And we were doing maybe 8 or 9 hours of meditation type practices every day. It was pretty intense. It was good fun. And I felt this energy really coming up from the sort of base of the spine. You probably call Kundalini energy. And I started feeling it kind of like really stirring, and I was sort of wanted to experience it, but I was also kind of reticent about letting it go, especially in a group of 40 people that I didn't really know, relative strangers. I'm quite a sort of introverted person generally, so big public displays aren't my thing. But I felt this energy brewing, and it kept coming up, and every session we did, it got stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where it was really lovely to feel. It was a lovely feeling. There was such a high feeling of energy there. And then eventually I got to a point where I didn't want to contain it anymore. And it kind of just burst. I'm tingling as I'm talking about it now. It literally just came shooting up from my spine, from the base, through the crown chakra, blasting out through the head. And the only way I can describe the energy, it was like having a stampede of 1,000 horses made of electric running through my body. That's the best language I could put to it. And I couldn't control, I had to express sound as this was going through my body, because it was so powerful, it was so strong. And I was sort of screaming, but in pleasure. It was like a pleasurable scream of release as this energy was just coursing through my body. And this lasted for an hour. It wasn't just like a few seconds, it was an hour. And during that hour, it got stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is just an example of what can happen in meditative practices. It's not just sitting passively. It's very often it can be very active. And in the middle of that experience, where I had no idea what my body was, my consciousness was so expanded. I didn't know where my body was in space and time. I didn't care. My consciousness was just reaching out into the universe. And I had quite a sobering experience in the depths of that experience, where I suddenly realized I was stood in foothills. And what I could see in front of me was a mountain range. And that was how much further there was to go. So whilst I was having the most profound experience I've had in this life so far, thinking, wow, this is just incredible, I was only in the foothills. And that actually scared me. That scared me, because I was already so expanded. And I came out of that experience. I only came out of that experience in an hour because they called for lunch, so the session had to shut down. I think I could have been there all day. Honestly, I could have. It was so incredible. And I was literally buzzing for days. And some very profound things started to happen in that state. I started to communicate with food. I could actually feel the vibration of food. And I haven't felt this since, but I could feel the specific vibration of food. And I could actually feel which apple to pick. out of a bunch of apples. I knew which was exactly the right vibration, and I knew what wasn't. I could literally feel it. If I went for a one that didn't have the right vibration, I literally couldn't put my hand to it. It was that expanded, and lots of other experiences like that. And that lasted for several days. And it was a little bit like living fifth dimensionally, it felt. It was a little insight into what it's like. I mean, wow, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I hope I haven't scared everyone off now by sharing that story. It's a bit scary. Okay.
Transformation is scary.
Yeah, it is because it's so far from the norm, so far from the accepted norm, which I think is relatively lame, you know, compared to what we can experience. I don't think we're here just to experience the normal, certainly not the created norms. I've got a
but we gravitate towards the normal, you know, like for instance, when people order the capstones from me, the intuitive design, a lot of the times they'll say, well, I like this color and this crystal, could you make one this way? And I say, you know, if you just let me do it myself intuitively, it'll probably be made with colors and crystals that you would not gravitate towards, because that's what transformation is about. If you constantly gravitate towards things you like, you're going to stay at the same vibration, you know? Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So I captured that experience in Germany with a picture. I don't know if you can see it very well, but that's sort of so just tried to capture visually what I was experiencing through the week.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
So
Cool.
powerful.
Yeah. It was fun, really fun. Can't wait for my next retreat, that's for sure. So that's, for me, meditation work can take me into very different places, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have found the same, you know, from taking me into a very peaceful place, a calm and still place, to a very, very energized space, depending on what your intention is and what it is you want to get from your meditation work. So I think intention is really important as part of, you know, your meditation. Why are you doing it? What is the goal? What are you after through meditating? Yes, okay, you can look at the studies and go, well, this is good for my health. I don't think that's quite enough to sustain you in a daily practice. You've got to really have a sense of why you're doing it. So I definitely encourage people to get clear about their intention and what they're working toward. So I'm kind of like getting close to the hour now. There's a few sort of tricks that I use. I mean, I've done the grounding thing with you guys. I mean, breathing work I think is really important. Personally, I enjoy breathing work, especially in the initial part, excuse me, of my meditation. I like to do a little bit of ha breathing. I don't know if you've heard of that technique. I think it comes from the Hawaiian Islands, from the kahunas.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I've learned some of their techniques from a lady that's trained with them. So ha breathing is a very good way of getting oxygenating the body, but also really dropping you down into that alpha state quite quickly. And I find maybe 10 minutes of ha breathing, which could be a little difficult to do straight away. You might want to build it up from a couple of minutes. And eventually you can do it for hours. It just becomes very self-propelling in a way. I know that kahunas, the medicine men, Hawaiian medicine men, they will do 8 hours of ha breathing straight before they do any healing work. I mean, that to me is like, wow, that's so far from the norm of what I know and have practiced. 8 hours of breathing work, and then they'll do their healing work. I mean, goodness knows what they're healing. I can only imagine after charging up that much, you know.
Yeah.
And I see ha breathing as a little bit like, you know, we all pretty disciplined when it comes to charging up our phone each day. You know, we're all seeking the plug and charge it up for the next day. But when do we charge ourselves up? You know, do we charge ourselves up with as much discipline as we charge our phone? Don't think so. Not the majority of people, at least. So I kind of like that analogy. It's like think of things like breath work and things like this as charging yourself up. I'm happy to do a little bit of demonstrating with the ha breathing if people would like to know
Absolutely.
what the process is. It's very simple. It's not complicated. You will probably find yourself getting a little bit out of breath at the beginning, but as you get it, you know, I hard breathe in the car. I did a 2.5 hour journey the other day and hard breathed the whole way, and I felt so charged by the time I got home. And the actual journey just felt like it reduced to 1/10 of what it normally felt like. You know, it was pretty amazing. Hard breathe at every available opportunity. So hard breathing is a short inhale through the nose, and then we're breathing out through the mouth. As we're breathing in through the nose, the tummy's coming out. And as we're breathing out, the tummy's going back toward the tummy button's going back toward the spine. We're not forcing, but that's kind of the general idea of what we're trying to do. On the out breath, what we want to get is a little bit of a ha sound, like air's coming out of a tire. That sort of sound. It sounds a bit funny, but I don't mind making a fool of myself. That's fine. So I'll demonstrate for you. Okay. So short in breath. Okay. We want to make the out breath at least twice as long as the in breath. So it's a short, sharp in breath, long out breath, and just let it come out as long as it needs to. Sometimes I'll do it for like a minute now. You know, before it was 5 seconds, you know, I'd be out of breath, but now I can, it doesn't matter the duration, but now I do very long out breaths because it feels comfortable now to do it that way. That's the process, and just keep repeating, keep repeating. Lovely to do at the beginning of meditation for 5 to 10 minutes, even 20 minutes, to really drop yourself down into a nice alpha state, get out that busy brainwave, beta brainwave. Really works. It's really effective. Something else you can do as well is to drop yourself into the alpha state is to do the eye roll. So you roll your eyes up 45 degrees. And when you eye roll 45 degrees, you actually motor drive your brain into alpha. So you're literally putting yourself into meditative state by rolling your eyes. Okay. It's a lovely, it's a multi-purpose technique, this one. It's very interesting. Very good way of, if you're calling in, say, angels or entities or guides or any energy you want to work with, if you roll your eyes up and call them in while your eyes are up, you're going to communicate with them on a much stronger level because you're in alpha and you can kind of communicate more directly. So it looks a bit funny, you know, if someone sees you doing it. You can do it with your eyes closed or open and just literally keep your chin still and roll your eyes as if trying to look through the top of your eyelids. It can be a bit of a strain and the eyes can kind of like waver a little bit. But if you just hold your eyes up and then do that sort of, you can hold for a few minutes, that can motor drive you into alpha, getting you ready to meditate. You can call in your guides and whatever energies you're working with in that state. You can also ask questions in that state because you're opening yourself up to receiving answers much more easily when you're doing the eye roll. It's very cool.
Does anyone feel like a kind of headache when doing this eye roll?
You can experience
discomfort, at least. Is it normal?
Experience different things because there's a bit of strain to it because it's something new. The muscles around your eyes are working differently to what they used to, so the muscles can strain. So what I encourage people is not to do it for too long. If you start straining and it becomes hard to do, just soften and go again. And eventually you can build it until you can hold them there for 20 minutes. And it's fine. You know, it's like anything. It's like going to the gym and lifting a weight. Certain weights you just can't lift. But with enough practice, you can. So like anything, then.
Paul, can you do it with your eyes closed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do it with your eyes closed. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm going to experiment. If I can get myself onto an EEG machine, I'm going to experiment with rolling the eyes down. Because if you roll your eyes up, you go into alpha and then theta. I'm wondering if you roll your eyes down, you can access gamma. I haven't tested this yet because I don't have a machine, but it makes sense to me that if you roll your eyes down, you could access gamma waves and, you know, sort of that super conscious state.
Yeah.
But we'll play with that when I get a chance. So I like to call in the energies I'm working with using the eye roll technique. So I'll do a little bit of hard breathing, do my eye roll technique, bring in those energies I want to work with. And personally, I work with the chakras when I'm doing my meditating. So I'm sort of bringing energy into each chakra, and I'm working with color. Again, do what you know, do what you enjoy. I mean, you can, you know, sometimes doing a load of hard breathing is quite nice. Half an hour, 40 minutes of hard breathing can be challenging, but the benefits are incredible. You really notice the benefits physically and mentally. Definitely encourage that. Another one that really changes your state, another technique, if you don't mind me sharing all these techniques with you guys, trying to sort of share what I've accumulated over the years. Technique, another Hawaiian technique is called Hokalau. Hakalau, I think it Hokalau. And this is again using the eye roll technique. So if you guys all want to practice this, and then just you can sort of share how you feel afterwards. So keeping your chin still, we just find something about 45 degrees, something that you can focus on, a point. Okay, keeping the chin still, just lifting your eyes up to about 45 degrees, more if it's comfortable, it's fine. Find something to stare at. And I want you to soften your gaze as you look at that point on the wall or the ceiling. Just really soften, just keep softening the gaze, keeping the chin down. So you're focused on that point. And then I want you to, whilst focusing on that point, I want you to start spreading your peripheral vision out to the sides, above you, below you, behind you, and all around you. Peripheral vision expanding and spreading all around whilst looking at that spot. Keeping your chin still, keeping the eyes relaxed. Just keep spreading your awareness all around you. Avoid blinking. Keep staring at the spot. Spreading your awareness all around you in the room you're in. You can spread it to the room adjacent to the room you're in, to outdoors. Just keep spreading that peripheral awareness. And just gently bring your eyes back to level. Notice the state you're in. You're not in beta anymore, that's for sure. How quick is that? To go from busy beta brainwave thinking and processing all this information to calm, centered.
It was very nice.
Slightly expanded. Charlie?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm unmuted. No, I was very peaceful. I'm starting to kind of fall asleep.
Great stuff. This is a lovely technique also if you're highly emotionalized by something. If you roll your eyes up, you can't actually feel. You can't feel emotions in that state. So I use it with clients if they really get emotionalized, if they get triggered by something, a memory or something like that, I'll get them to roll their eyes up and keep their eyes up. Because it actually, you can't access the feelings when you look up into the visual field.
Wow.
So it's very cool. That's why it's such a prevalent technique that's used in ancient cultures all over the world. The eye roll technique's really, really powerful. There was a guy, a hypnotherapist, a famous hypnotherapist called Milton Erickson, which you may have heard of. He was an amazing man. I think he used to work with about 14 different clients every day, one after another. He's an incredible practitioner. And for clients that had really difficult emotional experiences in sessions, he would get them counting all the chimney stacks on the way home from his office, because he lived in a big street and there was loads of chimneys on the houses, and he'd get them counting the chimney stacks. He was getting them to put their eyes up. Very clever. Very, very clever. I love that.
Cool.
So there's a few things for you guys that you can practice and weave into meditation. If you see fit, if these things make sense to you, you can see value in them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Other than that, it's all about setting up and setting that space. The pyramids, like I said, just give us such a great opportunity to be in a space instantaneously. When I'm sat in my pyramid, there's nothing else. I'm in my pyramid. Right. It's almost like the outside world just is unimportant. That's one of the wonderful things. And as you spend more time in that space doing that work, you're imprinting on the space all the time. So your energy, you're layering the energy of that relaxation, or whatever it is you're getting in that space, that peace. You're just layering and layering and layering, which makes it a much more energized space. Yeah. So I hope that's been useful to everyone.
It was. I just have to comment, I had an oximeter on my finger during the session.
Right. What's that?
And my resting pulse went down about 6 beats a minute.
Oh, wow.
Whatever that's worth. And it's not high to begin with, but it went down quite a bit. So
physiological difference, yeah, very cool. So if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to answer, or comments.
I had a question that came to mind when we were doing the eye rolling technique. I know that when there's also some intuitive process where we're trying to access information or memory that you look up, but you do it kind of off to the side. And I don't know how if that relates to what we were just doing.
Yeah, it does. It does. In NLP, they've got techniques of in NLP, you're looking at where people are accessing information, where their eyes are going.
Right.
And it's understood that when people are looking up into the visual field, they're looking for visual information. So on one side, it's different for different people. On one side, you're looking for visual memory. And on the other side, you're visually constructing.
Okay.
So depending on how someone's wired, which you can figure out, you can see where their eyes are going. If they're making something up, they're creating, or if they're accessing a memory.
And
if you pay attention to it, it's actually a very practical thing that we do. If you're remembering something, you're looking up and you're trying to access that in that sort of area of the brain or area of consciousness.
But you're saying that whether, like, if I look to my right and I'm visualizing or trying to remember something, that may not be true for somebody else. It may be, they may look left.
Yeah, it depends on which way you're organized. I think trying to remember, generally people, you can get someone to test you. So if you get someone to say, remember three really great experiences in your life, and get them to ask you the question of remember this, remember that, and just get them to note which direction your eyes go.
Okay.
And then get them to say, right, see a picture of your car. Now imagine it bright blue with pink spots on. Yeah, so your eyes have just gone right up that way.
That's right.
Your eyes have gone up to the right. You construct by looking up to the right. That's where your visual construct is.
Okay.
And on your left is your visual remember. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of a nice thing to work with when you're working with people. because you can kind of see what they're up to.
Yeah.
When people are lying, because they're visually constructing, right?
Sure.
It's quite cool.
Oh,
It's
wow.
quite cool. It's good if you're reading a book as well. If you want to visually remember, read your book up here. If your eyes are going up to the right, you'll retain the information that much better.
Really? Wow.
Again, it's another habit, right? Like everything, it's just developing that habit. Getting the knowledge first, then developing the habit afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Wow.
Fun stuff. It's fun stuff.
Cool.
It's very fun. People look at you strange though when you're sat there reading a book like that, you know. But hey,
Well,
doesn't matter.
while people are thinking of questions, I got just a couple of announcements. First off, Lisa's going to be doing a session next week that she can talk about here on how to bionize sand. So that's going to be next week's class. But we are looking for other speakers too. So if people would like to contribute, or if you have an idea of someone that you think we should bring on, let us know that. And then finally, Lisa and I are going to be on taping 2 sessions next week with Galactic Greg, who's a speaker, or a video YouTuber from the US, who's friends with Mark and JC. So we'll let you know when those videos come out. So anyway, just thought I'd get that in.
Yes, it's going to be a busy week. And I'm also going to be showing people how to put the sand inside their Stargate pyramids as well. So,
Okay, cool. Cool. Any comments, questions, guys?
Yes, please. I just want to thank you. Thanks so much for the very practical, very doable, and reliable tricks and tips how to enhance and get the meditation practice consistent. Is there any particular techniques, like, again, most practical and doable to access, to deprogram ourselves from whatever we were conditioned with from birth and probably even before that?
Yeah. For me, I'm a bit biased toward therapy, specific types of therapy that can really dissolve some of the emotional content that we're carrying, emotional baggage that we have from different events that have happened in our lives. The more we can collapse those emotions, we collapse the triggers that go with them. So you can then, once you've done that work, you can still have the memory, but you're not getting triggered. You're not getting the emotional trigger firing off and putting you back into that reptilian brain stress state, where the brain's shutting down. So I would say emotional work is really good. Keep clearing the baggage, the emotional baggage.
Right. So this is what I'm experiencing currently. So much pain coming to the surface, to the point that it's barely manageable. So I was trying meridian tapping. I was trying what else? Just crying out, basically, let it out, scream with screaming, and it's not screaming, mostly wailing, but yeah, it's tough. So anything else that, emotional work, what could be done, like, relatively?
Yeah, personally, if I'm in a state where where things can be overwhelming, I want someone assisting me.
Practitioner.
I want someone assisting me for sure. Okay. No question. I don't necessarily want to deal with that level of things on my own, in myself. I'm sure one day possibly I will, but if something sort of quite strong and overpowering is coming up, I want someone who really knows what they're doing, who've got the techniques, they've got the training, and they can just help me through that, and I can just kind of go beyond it and get on with my life. Because I think right now what's happening is that the energies are increasing all the time. Human resonance of the planet is increasing. Everything's increasing. It's just bringing more and more things to the surface. For me, it seems to be non-stop, like a conveyor belt of issues coming to the surface, and emotions and things like this. I mean, I can certainly give you, you really want to get to the root cause of this stuff. You really do. Get to the root cause. It's worth the effort.
So that means hypnosis, some
Hypnosis
kind of.
can be good. Yeah, that type of work, but not suggestion hypnosis. So if you just do suggestion hypnosis, you're just pouring in positive suggestions to kind of like, it's like a band-aid. You keep putting a band-aid on the wound. It's not going to heal the wound. You will get temporary relief. So you got to get, it's all root cause work, you know. I can't really, I mean, bar like, not that I'm trying to sort of get a new client here, but like bar working with you, I don't really know what else to recommend, bar actually sitting down with you and actually going, right, what's going on, and getting into the nuts and bolts of the issue, and then applying that work. So you get that relief, you dissipate that energy, and you can move on.
Yeah.
Meditation, I don't find meditation is going to do that. I find it as a very beneficial practice, and in some ways meditation will bring more issues up.
Exactly, because we are getting access to our.
Right? So in some way, you know, there is a sort of, I think the pyramids are the same. Personally, you know, it's all well and good getting a pyramid. You got to be prepared for what's coming, because the amplification will bring more stuff to the surface. Especially in these times, the energies have got to be cleared.
I know. In a way, it's a really good thing if you think about it, because
Yeah.
we're clearing all this baggage, right?
Just
Our
not at the
own
time.
ancestral, probably, and maybe
Yeah.
collective as well.
Yeah.
Just it's a little bit overwhelming, as you mentioned. That's right.
Something practical that you, a modality that you might want to explore is family constellations work, which originated in Germany. I think it's worldwide now. It's definitely over there in the States.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, family constellations, you've done some, Charlie, it shifts patterns really, really well. And with that, you can shift a lot of emotional baggage as well, as a side benefit. So it's a very powerful work. It's very unusual how it works. I love family constellations. I really do. It's such a wonderful thing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, most welcome. I mean, you can chat to me if you want to email me or something like that, and we can chat, and you know, I can help as much as I can.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't like seeing people in pain.
What it give for the people who weren't here last time? Tell people how to get in touch with you, Paul.
Yeah, so my website is paulbarlowenergy.com. I have a contact form on there where you can get my email, or you can email me directly as paul@paulbarlowenergy.com. So pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, there is, you know, with what we were talking about with the meditation and all the energy work's great, and it is going to bring more issues up. So I think there's as a duty of care, I'd just like to say to everyone, you know, just make sure you have resources available, you know, maybe a therapist that you really have good rapport with, that if stuff does come up, you don't have to just sit and suffer with it. You can go somewhere and you can do something about it. Because the more meditation work you do, the more energy work you do, the more issues you're going to bring to the surface. If you're not enlightened yet, you've got issues. I think it's as simple as that. You know, so we're not enlightened yet, so there must be plenty of things suppressing our energy.
You got to venture to the dark to see the light.
Exactly. Yeah, well put.
Thank you so much,
Right, Rachel.
Paul.
Oh, Rachel says thank you for your experiences and techniques, and she felt the difference using them. And Gretchen commented that today was very beneficial, moving forward with meditation in the pyramid. And she thanks you, Paul.
Good stuff. Great.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you, Paul.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to speak to you guys as well.
All right.
Really. Lisa, can I? You mentioned about making the capstones. Could we have a call or sort of some email sort of interaction or something like that in relation to moving forwards on that?
Yes.
Is that possible? Okay. I'm really excited about getting going. So
Good, good.
yeah. Whenever you're ready, that'd be cool.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Well, we
sounds
thank you
good.
all and look forward. Next Wednesday's Love Blast meditation will be at 7:33. Am I correct?
Yep,
Okay. And next Saturday, we're going to be on Ally at what time?
We're in at noon next Saturday with Lisa,
Okay.
12 p.m. Eastern, New York.
Right. Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
great.
All
See
right,
everybody
thanks, guys.
next weekend.
Okay.
Thank you so much.